this is Greg. He bet a long snapper would go in the second round.
The long snapper from Florida is still waiting for his name to be called.
Now this is EJ. EJ tuned into SportsGrid's draft coverage. He checked the app, tracked the markets, followed the pros. He didn't guess. He knew. Be EJ. SportsGrid draft coverage starts Thursday at 7:30 p.m. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're gonna go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's gonna help me get the job done. There is not gonna be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
If you're going to trade Durant, right, it means things are getting weird anyway. Teams are going to, before they go for Durant, they're going to go for Devin Booker. That's just the reality of it.
You get rid of Durant, or do you do the crazy one? Because you're so far out of the West, you get rid of Booker because D-Book will bring you far more in a return.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
It is NFL Draft Day here on this Thursday as we welcome you to hour number 2 live right here on the early line. He is Donnie Rightside. I am Ben Stevens. In this second hour, your Draft Day primer continues here on TEL. Later in this second hour, Mark Zinno will join us for his thoughts on the NFL Draft. We'll run a draft pick 6. We'll talk some NBA playoff previews, all of that and plenty more here on the early line. DRS is even fired up for the NFL Draft. That's how you know it's going to be a good one in 2025.
Absolutely. Just went over to the FanDuel Sportsbook and said, what happens if I place $5 down on Cam Ward to be the number 1 overall pick, Ben? The payout, $5.01. There you go. So if you want to be a winner out there, you cash that ticket in, you show all of your friends, you're trying to impress somebody in your life here. Look, I had this pick. Here's my winning ticket right now. Just put the little, blotches over how much you paid for it and be like, you know what? I'm a genius. I knew this all along. That's how you do it.
Winning is winning. Investment is investment. If it leads to you being in the black, that's all you can ask. So DRS, here on this NFL Draft Day, the top 5 feels rather solidified from the odds makers' perspective. Cam Ward minus 50,000, a substantial favorite to go first overall. Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter, now live on the FanDuel Sportsbook, minus 2,000 to go second and third, respectively. Will Campbell, minus 600 favorite to go fourth. Ashton Genty, the big mover in the last 24 hours or so, now a minus money favorite at minus 230. To be that 5th overall pick. 6 through 10, much more up in the air. Kelvin Banks, the O-lineman out of Texas, plus 160. Favorite to go to the Raiders at 6th overall. Armand Membu, plus 195. The offensive tackle out of Mizzou, the favorite to go 7th. Mason Graham, plus 170 to go 8th. Mikel Williams, the edge rusher out of Georgia, plus 260 to go 9th. And Tyler Warren at a 3-1 price, the Mackey Award winner and the tight end from Penn State, the ever so slight favorite at a plus 300 number to go 10th overall to Chicago. DRS, none of those favorites are minus money, however, to go 6 through 10, which means that could be a spot to see some movement in the draft order after all.
Yeah, and we'll see who wants to climb up or maybe trade out of those spots if they don't have true first-round grades or what they think is going to be a decision-making player for their team. But I do think it's interesting, that 10 spot with Warren, if he does wind up and we don't get any trades in the top 10 to the Chicago Bears to pair up with Cole Kmet, I think that would be absolutely sensational and add another weapon here, that double tight end set. You got wide receivers, you got running backs, you got the quarterback of the future. So I do think the Bears are in a pretty good position to have that. But it is interesting, we're 6 to 10, and I want to say household names because they're really good football players, but I do think you get a lot of movement in that spot, because what we've been hearing is that teams in the top 10 looking to trade out of the top 10, but not a lot of takers because, again, we don't know how front-loaded this draft is outside of, let's just say, the top 3 to 4 picks right now, which will add some intrigue as we get there. I would be shocked if we go through the top 10 and there's not one move made and everybody just sticks to their position as they wanted it here. That would certainly be shocking. But also, here's what I need. Like late in the day, where's the Adam Schlechter tweets out here that get people fired up as a massive players on the move? Because as Ben was pointed out, and rightfully so, like these numbers, typically it's like, okay, they're going to move a couple weeks ago. They'll move a few days before the draft, maybe incrementally, a day and a half before. Massive line movement already this morning, like the number 2 and the number 3 pick getting solidified right now. I wonder if we get a point where the FanDuel Sportsbook, Ben, is taking off the board, because minus 50,000 really is off the board. I don't know anybody's like, hey, let me pony up $50,000 to make like $100 back, or even if the FanDuel Sportsbook would take that here. So essentially those numbers are there. I just wonder where Hunter and Abdul Carter finish 1, 2, and 3, because I still think that Abdul Carter at minus 2,000, he is the best player, but I don't know if the Giants draft him at 3. That might be the only intrigue for me so far that legitimately could happen.
Yeah, for me, DRS, I do think the top 5 looks like that. The small caveat you must always present when it comes to betting NFL draft markets, if Abdul Carter goes 3rd, but the Giants trade out to the New Orleans Saints, and the Saints select Abdul Carter 3rd, you still cash that ticket. It is not Abdul Carter going 3rd overall to the New York Giants. Just Abdul Carter hearing his name called 3rd earliest tonight in Green Bay. Of course, one of the big storylines, Donnie, for this NFL draft cycle, and especially here during draft week in the last 48 hours, where will Shedeur Sanders go? His stock on a slide. As we get ready for this draft today, Shedeur Sanders to be a first-round pick, still minus 370. But, Donnie, that number wasn't even on the board on Monday because he was a minus money price to go top 10 at minus 210. That number now hefty plus money, as is his price to go top 5. And maybe most dramatically, that over-under position prop is 21.5. Why is that significant? Because which NFL franchise drafts 21st overall? The Pittsburgh Steelers, who are now a minus 135 favorite to be the team to select Shedeur Sanders.
And here's the interesting part, because we had Joe Lisi on yesterday talking about this, and I think he's right on this. I don't think if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers and you've identified Shedeur Sanders as your guy, and then the betting public goes, well, he's probably not going to make it past the Steelers. Don't you think every other football team that actually looks at Shedeur Sanders and wants to trade up from knows they can't wait where the Pittsburgh Steelers are? And the Steelers know that. Like, understand this. Part of the key moving and shaking, which Howie Roseman of the Eagles does very well, he's traded up the past couple of years to get teams ahead of teams he knows wants to take a certain player. You have to expend draft capital because they also know that you want that player. So I would be astounded. Like, if he winds up in Pittsburgh, which I think is a pretty good look for the Steelers, and finally you get what you think is going to be your franchise guy, then there's no way they can wait, because everybody is under the same assumption that he won't make it past the Steelers. So if you want Shedeur Sanders, you got to get ahead of the Steelers. And the Steelers understand that everybody's trying to do that, where they might have to jump up 1 or 2 spots and pay a little bit extra of a premium to move up just to make sure they get the guy they want. So I look at that 21.5 and I say, I don't know if that number is correct, because, again, I would be very surprised the way the NFL works is they just waited. Everybody knew they probably wanted him, and they got him at that draft spot.
Yeah, I wonder as well, DRS. I've shared this a few times. When this odd market came out for the team to draft Shedeur Sanders, the Pittsburgh Steelers had a 17-1 price. A couple of weekends ago, when we were doing Final Four coverage for SportsGrid's Bracket Central, I could not wait to get over to the Garden State where I could actually bet the NFL draft. At that time, the Steelers were a 9-1 price to draft Shedeur Sanders. Still made a ton of sense to me. That's where I bet it. I am very much hoping that minus money price is correct. But I also thought, DRS, it would be Pittsburgh having to move up from 21st overall, maybe past New Orleans at number 9, into the top 10 to go get their quarterback of the very hopeful future in the Steel City. Now I'm not so sure, because also as we have laid out, the teams in desperate need of a quarterback either have given us zero indication they are going after a quarterback in the draft, or they have already made their moves this offseason to at least solidify the quarterback room for 2025, looking at you, the Browns, and the Giants, and perhaps the Raiders. I do think Shedeur Sanders goes 21st overall here on draft day to Pittsburgh. Donnie, we'll have so much more time to discuss the quarterbacks, but the over-under draft prop for QBs is 2.5, and the over has the heavy juice at minus 167. If I think there is a plus money price that might make some sense tonight, it could be the under of 2.5 at plus 120. And it really all depends on what happens to Jackson Dart later in the opening round. We will discuss later. There is so much to get to here in our draft coverage. But we've also got some NBA playoff games to preview tonight as well. That's next.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Oh, yeah, it's NFL draft day, but the NBA playoffs must roll on. A triple header of action tonight around the association. In every spot, it is a game 3. I believe we are working in, we're not quite reverse chronological order, but almost reverse chronological order. We are starting at least with our nightcap at altitude, or not at altitude, in Los Angeles as we change venue for the first time. Sorry, my mind is focused on the 2025 NFL Draft. In LA tonight, DRS, it's the Clippers and the Nuggets in a series tied at a game all. Denver won game number one in OT, 112-110. LA won game number two in regulation by only 3 points. Our first two games in this series, a combined margin of 5. How close will tonight be? Well, we actually see our largest spread of this series so far. 5 points right now in favor of the Clippers as they get ready to host Denver in LA.
I got to tell you, of the 3 games tonight, this is probably the hardest handicap. And you're right, because you saw the first 2 games. Overtime, basically overtime. Split those 2 games, back to Los Angeles. Both teams are healthy for this one. And then you pop that 5 at the FanDuel Sportsbook with other outlets, Ben, actually showing 5.5 here. And a low total, which opened up at FanDuel at 215.5. Now down to 213, which is the same as just about every outlet here. But for my money in this one, I told you how the explanation of how I want this series to go. I don't want to take the Denver Nuggets just yet because I don't think the Nuggets win that game tonight. But having said that, I'm not so confident where I'm like, yeah, well, that means Clippers by 6+ points. You say, well, if you think they're going to lose that game, yes, these 2 games have been that close where I can see this being a possession or 2 in the fourth quarter once again. And it's not crazy talk to think the Denver Nuggets can win this game outright against the Clippers. But I do think the Clippers win this game, Ben. I'm not confident enough to lay the 5.5 points because I'm really setting up my target for give me a close game. But give me a close loss for the Nuggets, and I'll be all in on the Nuggets in game number 4 for the series price itself. But for me, I think the Clippers win tonight, but I'm not as comfortable laying the 5 to 5.5 or what it's going to be at game time.
Yeah, Denver has been a really good dog this year, DRS. 11-10 against the spread. All right, that's not overwhelmingly profitable, but of those 11 covers, 10 have been an outright victory, meaning if they keep a game competitive, there's a great chance they strike the outright upset. But again, the Clippers were the hottest team in the Western Conference ending out the regular season. Winners of 8 straight, had a lead early in game 1, did of course lose in OT to Denver. Both of our games, DRS, in this series so far, including the opener in the extra session, have stayed under. Game 2's total, 218 and a hook. LA won that game by 3, 105-102. So from 218.5 down to 213. Game 1's total, 224.5. In the span of 2 games, we have dropped by double digits in terms of that expected pregame number. How did LA win game number 2 at altitude, even as an ever so slight favorite against the Nugs? A vintage playoff performance out of Kawhi Leonard. 39 points, DRS, and incredibly efficient from the floor. 15 of 19 and 4 of 7 from beyond the arc. If he is playing at this level, the Clippers are going to be difficult for Denver to knock out or anybody in the Western Conference.
Yeah, it is. And I'm looking forward to that as well because we certainly should be getting the best of Kawhi, which usually means the healthiest of Kawhi. Because when he's healthy on the court, he certainly is a game changer. You look at the points props tonight as you're trying to settle in. Kawhi, 25.5 points again. Now, you know me. Game number 2, I was like, I need this guy to show up. And boy, did he. Do you need him to show up again? Absolutely. But sometimes we take a look at, Ben, the bench players or the B-level players, B-role players, I should say, where I think they play better on their home court than they do on the road. And also, there is a different environment. Like you can play in Boston, you can play in Orlando, you can play in Memphis, but when you get to elevation, your lung capacity changes there. Your shot arc might change a little bit at the elevation. You don't have that in Los Angeles, and I think that's going to play big for some of the bench guys there. Now, tonight, I might go role reversal because Kawhi Leonard should get his, but I got to tell you, I look at James Harden's 22.5, and I say home game here in a big spot, he's going to step it up again. Like, in what world do we have James Harden scoring 15 points tonight, right? Well, then he has a bad performance shot, 9 of 26 from the floor, which I don't think is going to be the case. So maybe bouncing back and forth between the 2 superstars also makes sense. Love Kawhi in the previous game. Still think Kawhi can get around his 25-point number, but I do think James Harden will be in the 20s tonight, and if his price point's 22.5, I like it.
That's a really good look, DRS. 25.5 the number for Kawhi Leonard. Highest points prop for the NBA's best player in my estimation. That is Nikola Jokic. 26.5 points. A triple-double in Game 2, finishing with 26 points. A rebound of all things shy of a triple-double in the opening game, finishing with 29. Yet to get to 30, plus 158 for the Joker to score 30-plus tonight. How about our guy, Big Will? Norm Powell.
Yeah.
2.5 made threes, DRS. Now the prop.
Oh.
The over used to have the minus money. It's now plus money at plus 120. Exactly 2 made threes out of Powell in each of the opening 2 games. And Ivica Zubac has been really good, DRS, all season long, but so far in this opening round set. 17.5 points, 12.5 rebounds, his props tonight. What are you saying? You know what to.
Yeah, you know what? I'm just looking at, because you know me, I love myself some 3-point prop markets here. You might pay a little bit of a price for it. It's minus 146. But in what world are we coming home to the Intuit Dome out of elevation, and my guy Norm doesn't make 2 3-point shots? And I just told you James Harden will be in the mid-20s. How does James Harden get to the mid-20s without at least 2 3-point shots? Minus 146, 2 triples Harden, 2 triples Powell. Ooh, that sounds like a good night. That sounds like one bet. I set it, forget it, fall asleep, wake up in the morning, bang it. There's money right there in my FanDuel account.
DRS, I love it for you. First ever playoff game, by the way, in the new Intuit Dome, in front of the wall. Clips Nation, stand up. Literally, you have to stand up if you are on the wall. DRS, that's game number 3 in a series tied at a game apiece. By the way, just quickly looking at those series odds, the Clippers close to a $2 minus money favorite to win this series outright at minus 198. They are also a favorite for game number 3. It is the first time in this series that the favorite for the game has also been the favorite for the series. The Clippers were a slight favorite entering game 1, and yet a road underdog. The Nuggets, after having that 1-0 series lead, were a slight favorite entering game 2, and yet a slight underdog. Playoff history at stake in the Motor City tonight. Next.
Vegas knows how to show love to our everyday heroes. So if you're a first responder, you are in for some perks. Lots of hotels and casino offer big discounts to any first responders who can show valid work or volunteer ID. So treat yourself to a discounted stay. You deserve it. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Hasn't been a ton of indication that Cleveland is even looking at anybody outside of Travis Hunter. The Giants, yes, have worked out Shedeur Sanders.
I do think there's going to be at least 3 quarterbacks taken in the first round. Not because they deserve the first round, have a first round grade on them per se, but the fact that you get the extra year of control, somebody's going to slide into one of those 30, 31, or 32 slots and grab a quarterback.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
They're so close that we're barely going to be getting any value on the plus side of things. I think there's a little bit of value on the Blue Jays today, but it's an awesome division. Like, I don't want to see teams running away and be up by 12 games in first place. We want to see teams constantly battling for first place.
They hit a team total. I love that. So as many times as we get bad beats, you do get the same amount of good beats typically in your direction if you wait long enough.
Pro Baseball Today. Only on SportsGrid. This is Greg. He bet a long snapper would go in the second round.
The long snapper from Florida is still waiting for his name to be called.
Now this is EJ. EJ tuned into SportsGrid's draft coverage. He checked the app, tracked the markets, followed the pros. He didn't guess. He knew. Be EJ. SportsGrid draft coverage starts Thursday at 7:30 p.m. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Three nights after winning their first playoff game since May of 2008. It's the first home playoff game in Detroit for the Pistons since April 2019. It is game number 3 in a series tied at a game apiece between the Knicks and the Pistons. DRS, Detroit was a road underdog of about 6.5 or 7 points in each of their opening 2 games inside Madison Square Garden. As we change venue to Little Caesars Arena in downtown Detroit we go. The Knicks are still a favorite, but just ever so slightly. 1.5 points, minus 120 on the money line. That total at 214. A series tied at a game all. What do we see tonight in game 3 in Detroit?
Little Caesars Arena, stand up tonight, because if you are the Detroit Pistons, you are going to feel the love tonight as if you were dating back to the Larry Brown, Chauncey Billups, Ben Wallace era. Why? Because playoff basketball means something. And understand this, too, about playoff basketball in Detroit. There's a long lineage and history of the Detroit Motor City Bad Boys, where when you stepped into that arena, you might get beat and then beat down during the game itself. The Rodmans, the Lambeers, the Isaiah Thomas, the Joe Dumars, Vinny Microwave Johnson coming off the bench. Bring everybody back, because you know what I love about this, too? You're not coming home as, first playoff game in a long time. This is going to be really exciting. We're down 0-2. Hopefully we can get a win. You are returning home in a 1-1 series where you should have been 2-0, and now you feed off that home court advantage from the fans in Detroit. That's what I'm excited about. And I see this number here, right? Opened up overnight at -1 as a favorite towards Detroit. Now we're flipping back to the New York Knicks, and the live number is the Knicks at -1.5, and I completely disagree with that. The better team in game number 1 outside of a 21-0 stretch in the fourth quarter was the Pistons. The better team all the way through game number 2 in the Garden was the Pistons. Now you're telling me the Pistons at home in front of their crowd and already energized by saying, you know what? They're not so bad. Like you watched the Rocky fighting Drago getting punched, or I believe it was actually Clubber Lang. You ain't so bad. You ain't so bad. You ain't so bad. That's what the Pistons are taking punches right now from the Knicks and coming back for more. So for my money tonight, it's the Pistons. Detroit basketball. Fire it up tonight. Let's go.
It ain't about how hard you can hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep on moving. The Pistons, by the way, have won 4 of 6 games against the Knicks this year. They are not afraid of this moment, and I think we saw some of that resolve, DRS, in the closing portions of Game 2. After that 21-0 run the Knicks used to win game number 1, the opening game of that set, Detroit was demoralized. How did they respond? Well, the Pistons saw their lead evaporate late in the fourth quarter, only to pull ahead with a very clutch Dennis Schroeder 3 late in the closing minutes to win their first playoff game since May 2008 and snap a 15-game postseason losing skid, the longest in NBA history. However, DRS, 37 points out of Jalen Brunson. Of course, some conversations about the foul disparity or the way the game was officiated. 28.5, the number for Brunson tonight. Cade Cunningham, a big 33-point performance to propel the Pistons to a win. 28.5, his points prop for tonight in the Motor City.
Yes, need the big kid to step up, man. You need it again. You're going to lean on him, and he understands it and will feed off of the crowd at that spot. Also, interesting for the New York Knicks tonight, right? Because game number 1 and game number 2, and granted, it's 1-1. You're playoff basketball. It happens. You lose a game on your home court. You got to fight back and steal one of these games in Detroit. But are we just going to see, again, Brunson basketball? Are we willing to bet that again? Because you know me, Ben. Loved it in game number 1. Loved it in game number 2. But it didn't work so much in game number 2 because you have to get everybody else involved, which includes Karl Anthony Towns, who should be taking way more shots than he did at least in game number 2. I'm interested to see his price point here tonight and if he can go over that. Because for me, again, I loved him in 1 and 2. Is he more the facilitator tonight, or is it just Brunson basketball in the playoffs is give me the basketball and let me work?
The Knicks, the outright favorites, entering game 3 tonight. -225. Donnie, we don't have to spend a ton of time on our third game of the night in Memphis. The Grizzlies host the Oklahoma City Thunder. The odds makers are expecting a sweep. OKC for this specific game in game 3, a 9.5-point road favorite. OKC has won each of the 2 games in this set so far, DRS, without Shai Gilgeous-Alexander being a true menace. He did score 27 points, though, in game 2. His points prop tonight, 31.5. Donnie, if the Grizz have anything, it happens tonight in the Grind City.
Going back to the well, Memphis, rise up tonight. And by the way, if you wear the Vancouver Grizzlies jerseys, this line should be minus 30 for the Thunder tonight. How about that?
Fashion Police Donnie, hard to get one by him. Mark Zinno joins us next.
They're so close that we're barely going to be getting any value on the plus side of things. I think there's a little bit of value on the Blue Jays today, but it's an awesome division. Like, I don't want to see teams running away and be up by 12 games in first place. We want to see teams constantly battling for first place.
They hit a team total. I love that. So as many times as we get bad beats, you do get the same amount of good beats, typically in your direction, if you wait long enough.
Pro Baseball today, only on SportsGrid.
If you're going to trade Durant, right, it means things are getting weird anyway. Teams are going to, before they go for Durant, they're going to go for Devin Booker. That's just the reality of it.
You get rid of Durant, or do you do the crazy one because you're so far out of the West? You get rid of Booker because D-Book will bring you far more in a return.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
11 times now without a major, 14 times at the Masters. He finally has the green jacket. Rory McIlroy.
The best sporting event so far this year. It's better than the Super Bowl. It was better than the NCAA tournament. It had ups and downs. It had roller coaster rides. It had history, legacies. It had everything you could ever possibly want.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
It is time to win with Zinn, but for a very special Thursday, live right here on the Early Line, it is draft day. Mark Zinno gets you ready and sets the stage for the stage we will see tonight in Green Bay for the opening night, the opening round of the 2025 NFL Draft. Mark Zinno, as always, we appreciate the time. Thanks for being here on this Thursday on TEL.
Gentlemen, no better place to be, no better day to be here than the NFL Draft. I am excited.
I know you are, Mark, and that warms my heart. Let's look at the draft order overall. All 32 NFL franchises, as we get ready for the draft on draft day, still maintain their original first-round pick. Of course, you know, that is history. The first time it has ever happened in the common draft era around the National Football League dating back to 1967. It is one of the main themes and narratives entering the 2025 NFL Draft. But in your mind, is it the biggest? What is the biggest storyline for Mark Zinno getting ready for draft night?
Well, it's obviously where the quarterbacks are going to go. I mean, we've seen a shuffling of the deck here as of late in all this Jackson Dart love coming in and Shedeur Sanders reportedly falling way late in the first round, even out of the first round. You know, and with everybody here, you have to try to figure out what's white noise and what is just shadow games and what's actual reality. You know, it's interesting because, again, when I hear all the talk about Jackson Dart, oh, here's his record against Georgia, here's his record against Alabama and everything else, you know, like, I remember us doing the same thing to Bo Nix last year. Like, we forgot how much people chided Bo Nix and didn't think he was going to be all that in the NFL. And with the right coach, turned out to be a pretty decent quarterback in year one. What does that mean for the rest of his future? Not 100% sure, but looks like he can play over the course of 17 games and leading his team to the playoffs. So you have to take a lot of this stuff with a grain of salt here. I will say this much. You know, after we did the show last week, I got on my little sports book there, and I decided to place a wager on Shedeur Sanders' draft position at under 8.5. And it was plus 190 at that time. Yeah, okay, so you made that face. Well, lo and behold, what happened 48 hours ago? Adam Schefter got his happy butt on TV and decided to tell everybody that, Shedeur Sanders might fall down to 21 here at the Steelers. And, well, lo and behold, what happened? The entire market moved. So I went back to look at my sports book and saw now Shedeur Sanders at under 8.5 was at plus 650. So I'm curious, what would you guys have done? Because I'll tell you what I did.
Bought back in. Did you buy back in?
Go ahead.
Bingo. Doubled right down on Shedeur Sanders at under 8.5 at plus 650 because I figured, why not? I mean, to me, it was, if I took a flyer on something that felt improbable at plus 190, why wouldn't I do it again at plus 160? If I was willing to lose a shekel once, I'm willing to lose it twice at a much bigger number. So, my hope here is now at this point in time for my wallet, the Giants are dumb enough to take Shedeur Sanders at 3.
Two wrongs always make a right, Mark Zinno. I'm with you on that. I love it.
DRS, I love it. Thank you.
I'm with you.
You guys could really get behind that. I can understand the bravado behind it. I don't think it's the best betting advice for our viewership here on the Sports Grid Network, but DRS, fire away.
DRS, love you.
Yeah, but I mean, we're the same way. I mean, like in all parts of my life, double down, never admit to the error, keep moving. Eventually, the other person will give way, and you win that organ. Yeah, see that? There you go. But getting back to the top 10 here, if we look at the top 3, we want excitement tonight, Mark. We really do. But it doesn't look like, let's just say, the Titans are going to trade pick number 1. So my question to you is, if we look 2 through 10, give me a spot where you think a trade-up could happen. But more importantly, which team do you believe is going to make a trade in or out of the top 10 if you see one coming tonight?
You know, I kind of believe that the Giants, for Joe Shane and Brian Daboll, who knows how much job security they really have, unless Abdul Carter is there, right? Like, there's a part of me that believes that, these guys don't want the pressure of drafting 3rd overall and screwing it up. The idea that they might take, Travis Hunter and it not work out, or they take Abdul Carter and it not work out, or they take Shedeur Sanders and it not work out. They know they're all dead on arrival if that happens. Then why not get the heck out of that spot, trade back and try to acquire more and go, we'll just play the safe thing when something falls to us at 15, 18, 20, whatever it may be, to somebody who wants to come up and get them. So I think they are a real linchpin here in the draft, what happens with the Giants at 3. And then, again, I think that there's a lot of volatility here with the Saints at 9. From all accounts that I've read, they're not taking a quarterback. They don't feel like there's one valuable there that Cam Ward is the only one they got a first-round grade on. They need a ton of things. They need a lot of cheap talent because they're still struggling with cap issues that they may want to get out of there at 9. So I think we'll see 1 or 2 trades here in the top 10 before it's all said and done tonight.
Since 2011, when the draft has begun, of course, we have not seen a trade in the draft order prior to the beginning of the 2025 NFL draft. But after the Tennessee Titans go on the clock and the draft officially starts tonight, since 2011, we have averaged a trade and a half into or within the top 10 in NFL drafts. Zinno, right now, though, the odds makers are almost solidifying what the top 5 of the draft order is going to look like tonight. Cam Ward now a minus 50,000 favorite to go first overall. Both Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter now minus 2,000 to go second and third. Will Campbell a minus 600 favorite to go fourth overall. In the big move in the top 5 has been Ashton Genty, now a minus 250 price to be that 5th overall pick. Zinno, when we get through the top 5 of the NFL draft in, just a little bit shy of 12 hours tonight in Green Bay, is that exactly what the draft order is going to look like in the top 5?
No, because I still think Genty is going to go 4, and I think the Patriots are another team that actually could trade out. They have a ton of needs, and Mike Vrabel has always been as smart as a coach as he has been as a sort of front office executive in knowing how to rebuild a roster and knowing that he has a bunch of needs. I don't think he'd mind trading back to a team that wants to move up and go get Ashton Genty because they believe as the best running back in this draft, he could ultimately be a playmaker and a game changer for some offense here going forward. I kind of still would be surprised. That's the one guy I think that we're starting to hear a lot of noise on in Ashton Genty that's actually true, that after the top 3 go of Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, and Abdul Carter, if they go to those 3 teams, but at least they would go in that order, that Genty would be the next guy off the board because it's just too much value to pass up for a player of his stature that can really change an offense.
We take a look at that 6 to 10 range here, which again is up in the air. The top 5 should be a lot of fun tonight. And there is intrigue at 4 and 5 if players stay there, or should I say if teams stay there, trade in or trade out, what players end up getting picked there. But from 6 to 10, is there a mover or a shaker on your board, Mark, that you really like there, or maybe a surprise that you might see between those draft picks?
Yeah, I think Marcus Golden from Texas may be the guy who shoots up the draft board as far as the top wide receiver off the board. I know Ted McMillan has been getting all the love, but I think he's a guy that's actually going to be the first wide receiver taken off the board, and it wouldn't surprise me if it happened inside the top 10. I would also tell you, I think that Tyler Warren falls outside the top 10. Look, we learned from the Kyle Pitts experiment, you don't take tight ends that high. You just don't. There's not a value there. Even Brock Bowers went at 11, right? So I know 10 is only one spot away, but it just feels like GMs have learned that we're never going to get the value of a top 10 pick out of a tight end. And so I think Warren may end up falling back a little bit.
So, of course, Mark Zinno being the Mark that he is, I think he was referring to Matthew Golden, the wide receiver out of Texas via Houston. But Mark is always first and foremost in Zinno's mind. Donnie doesn't. Donnie, where did Mason Graham go to college?
Yeah, see, that's cheating because we brought him up on the show, Michigan. But there's a couple. I wish we would have played this game like 2 weeks ago. It would have been pretty funny to watch these players go out. Like Ashton Genty. Man, where did he go again? You know what I mean?
Yeah, you knew that one. You were battling with Boise State fans in September about Ashton Genty's usage, so you could know that he played for the Broncos. If Ashton Genty goes in the top 10 tonight, especially in 5th or 4th or 6th overall, it will be the highest a Boise State player has ever been selected in NFL draft history. Zinno said his top storyline was the number of quarterbacks that we see in round number 1 tonight, and he is still holding on hope for the under 8.5. Can't even say it out loud. 8.5 for Shedeur Sanders. We talk QBs next.
This is Greg. He bet a long snapper would go in the second round.
The long snapper from Florida is still waiting for his name to be called.
Now this is EJ. EJ tuned into SportsGrid's draft coverage. He checked the app, tracked the markets, followed the pros. He didn't guess. He knew. Be EJ. SportsGrid draft coverage starts Thursday at 7:30 p.m. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
If you're going to trade Durant, right, it means things are getting weird anyway. Teams are going to, before they go for Durant, they're going to go for Devin Booker. That's just the reality of it.
You get rid of Durant, or do you do the crazy one because you're so far out of the West, you get rid of Booker because D-Book will bring you far more in a return.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
The quarterback position, each and every year for the NFL draft, is always one of the main narratives to follow throughout the entirety of the draft cycle and now on draft night. And of course, the one individual who probably will move the market one way or the other the most, that would be Colorado's QB in Shedeur Sanders. Now, Mark Zinno has told you he has doubled down on what I would consider a bad bet of under 8.5 and a couple of plus money prices on Shedeur Sanders' draft position prop. As of this draft day on the FanDuel Sportsbook, that number is 21.5. Convenient, if you ask me, because which franchise drafts 21st overall? The Pittsburgh Steelers, who are now a minus 135 favorite to be the team to draft Shedeur Sanders. All of that information, Mark, right back to you. Where do you think Shedeur Sanders gets picked in the 2025 NFL Draft?
Well, look, even if you believe that the Pittsburgh Steelers are eyeing up Shedeur Sanders, you still have to take the under 21.5 because you got to move in front of them to go get him, right? Like, unless the Steelers are willing to trade out at 21, which means they never wanted him to begin with, right? Like, you have to jump in front of Pittsburgh. I don't see a reason to play. If the only other bet to take Shedeur Sanders is to fall out of the first round altogether, right? Like, there's no reason I think you take over. Sure, could somebody trade back in? But at that point in time, you know, again, I mean, are you giving away for a team to trade out at 27, 28? They're going to want at least a second-round pick next year. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're going to want a lot to move into that spot there, and it might not be worth it to teams to give it away when they know none of those teams are going to take Shedeur Sanders, period. So you can let him fall. So I think in general here, the philosophy on Shedeur Sanders and taking him is that if he gets outside the top 10, then probably there's a solid chance he might fall out of the first round altogether because, you know, again, I think that there's enough lust for quarterbacks in this league. And what did we say in the break, guys? With Shedeur, you're drafting two things, right? You're drafting his potential because I think he's got the biggest and the highest upside of any quarterback in this draft. I think that's kind of what the feeling is, that with the right coaching at the next level and everything else, he can ascend to a level that other guys can't get to. And quarterbacks are always overdrafted. Like, if he gets past the Giants, then, you know, I don't know that somebody doesn't move back in the top 10 to get him. If they don't do that, then, you know, the fall could come right out of the first round altogether. I just have a hard time believing that he would pass 21 and still stay in the first round.
If we look at Shedeur Sanders, Mark, right, coming into the season, the preseason favorite to be the number one overall pick in the draft. And granted, if you're a first rounder or second rounder, you're still drafting your quality football player. But why might we see the drop on Shedeur Sanders? Let's just say he doesn't go to Pittsburgh at 21 and he lasts to 27, 28, 29 or into the second round. What was shown on tape and or just the player coming to a new city where he would drop out of the first round? Because I know your point is valid and it's right. Quarterbacks are overdrafted every year. This kid's a talent. Why would he not go in the first round?
Right, and that's the point. Like, is there somebody out there who looked at Jackson Dart's tape and looked at Shedeur Sanders and can clearly unequivocally say Jackson Dart is a better quarterback? The idea that Jackson Dart would go in the first round and Shedeur wouldn't, to me, seems flawed. Either they both in the first round or they both fall out of the first round. When you look at Shedeur, again, I think you see a really high ceiling. I think you see a guy who can do a lot of different things on the football field that many other quarterbacks can't. And that's kind of, you know, and outside of the name that you're drafting in Sanders and it being Deion's kid, and Deion is right, if his last name was Smith, we would be having a whole different conversation around him. But because he's related, it's Deion Sanders' son, there's absolute truth to the amount of smoke that is around his name throughout this entire draft process.
For sure. You could also argue the opposite of that equation. If his name was Smith, would he be following Deion to the level that he did at the FBS campaign? I'm not entirely sure. I think it works in both ways. With notoriety and attention, there is going to be naysayers and a ton of focus on what you do. I think Shedeur Sanders is a very, very talented quarterback. Had a 74% completion percentage last year in 2024 when he was a first-team All-American, when he was the Big 12 Player of the Year. That 74% completion percentage was the sixth best by an FBS quarterback in a single season in history. And yet there are certain things that NFL teams highlight, that he played in a very pass-heavy offense where he was the guy and he takes a lot of sacks that might not translate to the next level. That is why I think we are seeing the stock slide. Any character questions, I think, are overblown. You want your quarterback to be confident. Shedeur Sanders, though, Mark, we still expect to be a first-round selection, minus 370. Cam Ward is the minus 50,000 favorite to go first overall. Jackson Dart still remains a favorite to be a first-round pick, and the over-under for the number of quarterbacks taken in round number 1 is 2.5, and the over has the hefty juice. At the end of 32 selections on night number 1, Mark Zinno, how many QBs go in the first round?
I think we get to 3. I want to say 4. I mean, I really do. Like, is there a team out there that's drafting at the end of this draft that looks at Tyler Shook and goes, that kid's still a project, give me 2 or 3 years with him, and we can figure out what we have? But again, the idea that you're going to invest a first-round, pick into a guy that, doesn't have any long-term aspirations for you. It's one thing when you do it at 11 like the Chiefs did, and he was the heir apparent. No one at that late stage of the draft is going to be the heir apparent unless you get a trade back in. So I think we get 4. I genuinely think if we don't get – it's either 2 or 4, right? I don't think it lands on 3. I think, again, multiple guys fall out of the first round like Jackson Dart. Jalen Miller is not projected, but both of those guys do it, or none of them do it. So if you believe it's like I do, it's either 2 and it's Ward and Sanders, or it's 4 because Dart and Milroe or Dart and Shook both get in the first round.
Could the Atlanta Falcons look for another quarterback? The question always has to be asked, with what the Falcons draft strategy could be. You are there in Atlanta. You cover the Falcons very well. The hefty favorite for the first position drafted by the Dirty Birds is a defensive lineman at minus 400. Is that the plan on draft night for the Falcons?
Well, look, everybody in Atlanta wants them to draft a defensive player, so you would think that's the case, but don't be surprised to see them go O-lineman. They have Caleb McGarry, who's in the last year of his deal. You have Jake Matthews, who's long in the tooth. They're going to need a right tackle to protect Michael Penix's blind side, and they may find it here in the first round.
I would keep an eye on Shamar Stewart, making his way up the draft board for that spot at 15. Some Diamond Dash plays with Mark Zinno next.
They're so close that we're barely going to be getting any value on the plus side of things. I think there's a little bit of value on the Blue Jays today, but it's an awesome division. Like, I don't want to see teams running away and be up by 12 games in first place. We want to see teams constantly battling for first place.
They hit a team total. I love that. So as many times as we get bad beats, you do get the same amount of good beats typically in your direction if you wait long enough.
Pro Baseball today, only on SportsGrid.
If you're going to trade Durant, right, it means things are getting weird anyway. Teams are going to, before they go for Durant, they're going to go for Devin Booker. That's just the reality of it.
You get rid of Durant, or do you do the crazy one because you're so far out of the West? Do you get rid of Booker because D-Book will bring you far more in a return?
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
11 times now without a major, 14 times at the Masters. He finally has the green jacket. Rory McIlroy.
The best sporting event so far this year. It's better than the Super Bowl. It was better than the NCAA tournament. It had ups and downs. It had roller coaster rides. It had history, legacies. It had everything you could ever possibly want.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We've got the NFL draft on this Thursday. We've got 3 playoff NBA games on this Thursday, and we still have some Major League Baseball to break down as well. A full Wednesday slate around the bigs. Not as many games here on this Thursday, about 9 as I count them. I think I am correct with that. Maybe 8? Who knows? All right, Mark Zinno, 9 in total, as the Rockies and the Royals will play a doubleheader in Kansas City. So, Zinno, we'll start going around the Diamond Dash. As we talk about the National League West, of course, there's a ton of focus on the San Diego Padres, the LA Dodgers to begin this year. But keep an eye on those San Francisco Giants at home today, taking on the Brewers. Zinno, how do you see this game playing out by the Bay?
It's interesting because it's weird that the Giants aren't exactly like a great hitting lineup, yet they seem to keep winning games. Like, I'm not really sure how they do it. When you look at their numbers, they're very middle of the road, and they're not all that impressive. They play in a pitcher's ballpark, so they don't score a lot of runs at whatever it's called now. It's not Pac Bell, AT&T, whatever.
Oracle.
I can't. Thank you very much.
Oracle Park.
But nonetheless, they're getting a lot of quality starts, and they're getting timely hitting, and they're winning ball games here. So hard to bet against the Giants at home today. Landon Ralph has been really good, all things considered, given where he was. But you're talking about a guy who's allowed 3 runs or less in 3 of his 4 starts, and he had a great start at home last time he faced the Reds in a game he gave up just 1 run in 6 innings. Give me the Giants today.
No Yanks to ask you about today on the slate, which is a tough scene there. Yanks, playing decent baseball. Aaron Judge might hit 500 this season. But let's go to one of their division rivals, Seattle and Boston today. Wu versus Crochet, 135 start today. Up in Boston, that minus 150 or so line rising higher and higher. The FanDuel Sportsbook minus 174. Other outlets as high as 185 and a total of 8. Any thoughts with Seattle and Boston today up in Beantown?
They've gone over the first 2 games in this series, so you have to begin to wonder when the under is going to come in. Feels like today is the day. Brian Wu has been very, very good, and so has Garrett Crochet. You look at 35 strikeouts in 32 innings this year. So I would look to a first 5 under, even at 7.5 here for the game total. If you can get a 4, take the 4 and live with the push. But you'd have to believe there's some aggression. This is another Red Sox team that isn't hitting the ball all that well, and the Mariners' offense is just putrid. Like, it's bad. They're one of the highest K-rate teams in all baseball, and as is Boston, I expect a lot of strikeouts today.
Yeah, it's a really good look, Zinno, as well. Total is 8. Really good pitching matchup between Brian Rue and the American League Cy Young favorite in his first year in Fenway. That is Garrett Crochet, plus 165 price for Crochet to win the AL Cy Young hardware. Boston's been playing better. A couple of games below 500 just a couple of weeks ago. They've won 7 of their last 10. The rubber match today between the Sox and the M's at Fenway. You look at the rest of the card, either on that graphic, the White Sox and the Twins also included, and as we shared, a doubleheader between the Royals and the Rockies after yesterday got postponed. Zinno, what is the best bet for you on this Thursday around Major League Baseball?
Give me the Angels here. First 5 on the money line. Pay it just because the Angels' offense over the last 2 weeks, after a hot start, one of the worst in baseball. Tied for the fewest runs scored and batting a stinky $198, whatever it is. It's been pitiful for them. But they're facing Carmen Ladzinski of did I get that, Ben? Maladzinski?
No. Tough one. Majinski. That's a tough one.
Whatever. Can I tell you something?
That's a tough
bad.
one.
Call him whatever you want. 7.41 ERA, whip. Hasn't made it past 5 innings in any of his starts, given up at least 4 runs in 3 or 4 here. Added to the fact that the Pirates absolutely cannot hit left-handed pitching. They got a 209 batting average. They're bottom 5 in OPS. And Tyler Anderson has been as consistent and reliable as they come. He's got a 208 ERA, near 1 whip. Pirates have the 4th highest strikeout rate against lefties this year. Trying to avoid the sweep. So let's take the Angels here, first 5 on the money line, in case their offense still stinks against Bad Ski. Call him Bad Ski.
Yeah.
That too. Call him Bad Ski. In case the Angels' offense still stinks here, we'll keep the tie in our back pocket.
Yeah, not the worst idea right there to call a guy Badsky. It's kind of a cool name, even if things start to turn around. Man, that guy's Badsky type of thing. The Halos blanked yesterday at home in Anaheim by the Pirates. Carlos Rodon dealing yesterday in the land. 7 innings
Brody.
of work, did not allow a single earned run. Had to bring a smile to your face.
They did it on the road. That brought a smile to my face. I mean, last year he was terrible on the road. Maybe it's the beard. Maybe he just feels more comfortable with facial. Who knows?
Retire Ben Rice's number.
I feel more comfortable.
Send them off. Ben Rice.